What's going on? This is the Snodgrass podcast. Thank you guys for joining me today. I have Paul Wakim on the podcast with me, and Paul is from the real estate industry. Got into it around 2016 with his wife, Shannon. They started off in the real estate photography business and built up just this amazing photography business, but now has a startup called TwnSqr, and he's helping real estate investors really sell their properties with their software, TwnSqr. And Paul really dives into the good and the bad of the startup industry, what him and his wife and his partner Mitch have all gone through with the pivoting and trying to figure out what's working, what's not working. And he just really dives into the hardships of building a startup and the successes that he's had as well. And he also talks about him and his wife right now are traveling to Airbnbs all over the nation trying to figure out, where do they want to land and live. And he's going to be doing that for the next year. Right now he's been in Oregon and he's going to Lake Tahoe. Just a very interesting life. He's a young guy, 29 years old, and he has, again, this startup, TwnSqr, which is going really, really well right now for real estate investors, and it's a great tool for your tool belt. So before I introduce you to Paul Wakim, I want you guys to go over to irondeep.com. Right now, we are really busy behind the scenes developing the community of Iron Deep. We're developing the retreats for next year. We're going to be doing 2 Men's Awakening retreats, so we're figuring out what the locations are on those. We're going to be doing a soulmate retreat, so you're definitely going to want to check that out on irondeep.com here soon. It's going to be in Palm Springs, California. And we're also going to be doing a homecoming for the men that have already been to an awakening. We're going to come home again at our men's homecoming next year. So check that out on irondeep.com here soon. And also go to our YouTube channel and check out these podcast videos, and also check out our videos that come out each month about something to do with the men and faith and work and our passions and our legacy and our purpose. So check that out on our YouTube channel, Iron Deep. So now I want to introduce you guys to Paul Wakim. Hey, what's going on with our guest at today's podcast? I got Paul Wakim with us today. What's going on, Paul?
Not much, Brett. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be talking to you. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to this interview. You're a very unique person, and just kind of like reading over your journey. And right now, you and your wife are kind of doing your business, TwnSqr, remotely, staying in different Airbnbs, and not just any type of Airbnbs. You're staying in really cool places. You guys are in Oregon right now, and you're getting ready to go to Lake Tahoe, and that's awesome, man. So,
yeah,
very
chasing
life.
The mountains.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. We're trying to chase the beauty that the Americas have to offer.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I can't wait to kind of dig into that, and I love talking just about these unique type of passions in your life as entrepreneurship. But let's just start this off, man. Like, who is Paul Wakim?
Yeah, so I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 2016, and before I went to college, while I was in high school, really my entire life, I was a aspiring entrepreneur. I started a landscaping business in college. I bought and sold sneakers. I'll never forget the story that I got a pair of sneakers that a guy offered me in person. He was going to buy them for $12,000. If you can believe that.
Wow.
A $250 pair of sneakers. And I showed up to like the meetup in a public place, and he offered me his Cadillac CTS that he drove up in.
Wow.
Instead of the $12,000 in the middle of Oakland, a little city outside of Pittsburgh where the University of Pittsburgh is. So yeah, I've always been entrepreneurial.
So just real quick, you had these sneakers that you're trying to sell.
Yes.
And he gave you a car for your sneakers.
He tried to. I said, no deal, man. I don't want your 120,000 mile Cadillac CTS in a back alley.
Wow, that's awesome. Anyways, sorry to interrupt, but that's a crazy story.
All good. All good. Yeah, it's always one I like to tell. We bought the sneakers, got lucky and got them for $250, and then met that guy. We ended up selling them. I say we, my friend and I, that we went in together on them. We ended up selling them on eBay for like something crazy, like $10,000. That's back whenever sneakers were it was a whole game. It was a whole
Yeah.
game we were involved in.
Wow.
But I've always been chasing the entrepreneurial spirit that I have inside of me. And whenever I graduated college, my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, her name is Shannon, she bought me a drone. And I used that drone as a hobby for a couple weeks. And then we decided let's try and take some real estate photos. A friend of ours who was we were also in business with at the time doing some social media marketing, he said, my wife is a real estate agent. Can you take aerial photos with your drone? Right as drones were becoming a hot thing in 2016. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll give it a shot. Went out, took some photos of a listing that she had, and the rest was history. I drove down the street and met another real estate agent who happened to be one of the largest real estate agents in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania market. And we've grown what is now a full service real estate photography, real estate media business into one of the largest real estate photography companies on the East Coast based in Pittsburgh. My wife now runs that company, and that's how I really cut my teeth in the real estate industry. That's where I got my start, got exposure to high level agents, high level investors mainly, and really got interested in real estate.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how I got my start in the world of real business. You know, talking to accountants, not selling sneakers in a back alley for a Cadillac CTS.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is awesome. Well, we have very similar stories. You're a lot younger than me, and when you said eBay, it just brought me back because that's how I first started getting introduced to entrepreneurship is through eBay, just buying and selling
Nice.
whatever I could get my hands on, going to thrift stores, whether it's stereo equipment or we used to buy and sell DVDs on eBay back when people bought DVDs in my day, and it's just kind
Back in
of
the Stone Age.
that's right. I know. Time just flies. It wasn't that long ago, but yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But I love it because I have a lot of real estate investors on this podcast just because I'm in real estate, but I love it because you have found the niche that's not necessarily flipping houses or buying rental properties, but just kind of servicing real estate investors and servicing real estate agents. Love it with the
Yep.
photography. You found a niche. And so you kind of had this drone and what does that kind of look like?
Yeah.
You just take
Yeah.
these very high professional pictures and just taught yourself how to do that. And then obviously
Yeah.
that's a pretty big deal when you're scrolling through real estate listings and the pictures speak louder. Like, I think you mentioned you're staying in Airbnbs, and it's funny how I'll scroll through Airbnbs,
Yep.
and if something doesn't have good pictures, it's like, oh, this place is pretty crappy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it might
Exactly.
not be.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like at the time in 2015, 2016, a lot of agents were taking photos with their cell phones because cell phones were getting better and better cameras. It has always been over the past 6 years or so, a little bit of a challenge to convince people sometimes that they do need photos from a professional camera. But that first house that I ever took photos of with the drone, I drove down the street, met that real estate agent who just happened to be one of the biggest in Pennsylvania. And she said, I want you to take aerial photos with your drone, and I want you to take interior photos. You have a camera, right? You're a professional photographer. And I said, oh, yes, of course I do. So I got in my car. I called a photographer friend of mine. I'll never forget. I met him for a beer and said, I need to borrow your widest angle lens possible because I need to make a real estate interior portfolio.
Mm.
The next day after that, I got his lens and I went out and took photos of my friends who had nice houses. I took photos of their houses, the worst real estate photos possible. The
Mhm.
Airbnb pictures you're talking
Yeah.
about, I took those. Put together a portfolio and showed it to this agent, and she said, sure. And then that year, we photographed 450 listings for her, and she referred us to everybody. And everything has taken off word of mouth since then.
Wow.
To say that I got lucky is an understatement. A lot of hard work in there, but to
Yeah.
walk down the street and stumble upon the biggest agent in Pennsylvania at the time,
Yeah.
it's that nothing else but luck.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. And all you really is just you put the puzzle together, right? It's like, oh, she needed something, and you're like, I don't have that, but I know someone who does. And really, it was just that
Yep.
wide angle lens, which is honestly what I used to use. So I remember, when I used to be the one taking my pictures of my vacant houses, and I put a little put the wide angle on, I put
Yep.
the flash on, and they wouldn't be that good, but they'd be better than everybody else's.
Yep. That's
Right?
right. That's right. Yep.
Um,
Yeah, the
yeah.
technology has changed so much since then. Our photographers now, if you can believe it, whenever the photographer takes a photo of a kitchen or whatever, they actually set their tripod down. At the time, I was taking photos with just my hands on this
Mhm.
crappy $100 camera. The lens was like a $800 lens at the time, but nonetheless, our photographers now, they take, for every composition of a kitchen, they take 4 photos, one that has a flash, and then 3 that are of varying exposure levels, and then our editors blend all of those together to make a final image that is then edited. So
Wow.
what you see in real estate photos today is, if you see good photos, it's because somebody's taking a lot of time to
Yeah.
really doctor up that image and give you the sense that you're in the room with all that crazy editing.
Yeah, yeah. And then now people are doing a lot of the 3D images because I'll go on Airbnb and I can walk through the house, and that technology,
Yep.
which used to be really, really expensive, is now coming to the surface. It
Yep.
isn't as expensive as it used to be. So, man, so I love you just kind of took this, ran with it. Obviously, said luck was involved, but you've been in the entrepreneurial world for several years now, and now you have this new organization, TwnSqr. And I know we've been talking about that about a year or so ago.
Yep.
And obviously we're always looking for, who can we help build our team as a real estate investor. And it doesn't always have to be someone we're hiring directly or an employee or a contractor, but it's also, looking for other services that we can kind of put into our team, whether it's an insurance company that can insure all of our properties, or whether it's another software that help us be more productive, or whether it's TwnSqr, which can help us sell our property. So can you kind of dive into that? Like, how did that get started?
Yeah.
And tell us about TwnSqr a little bit.
Yeah, so like I said, I learned a lot from the professional real estate agents and professional real estate investors that I was taking photos for. I was the only photographer for the first 2.5 years, taking photos of up to 12 houses in a single day. Lots of them were flips. We had a really fast turnaround, and you know how investors can be. I need photos right now so I can put on the market tomorrow. Agents are
Yeah.
the same way sometimes. So we got a name for ourselves because we were able to turn around the photos quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized, I had this amazing epiphany, not really, in 2018, 2019, that there is no real estate without a seller.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, if I could predict who was going to sell their house next with technology, then I could fuel my own real estate investments, which I was getting into at the time, and I could fuel my colleagues and my real estate agent careers. So I looked at things like List Source. I looked at things like the MLS. At the time, there was a lot of really well-structured data in Allegheny County around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, provided by Carnegie Mellon University and the county. So with all of that data, I said, I know why people sell their house. I talk to homeowners all day long, and I can build an algorithm to predict who's going to sell their house next. So in late 2018, early 2019, I started learning how to code in Python. Early in the morning, I hired a coach overseas on Upwork to tell me how to write code and how to build this very, very rudimentary, essentially list stacking algorithm to predict who was going to sell their house. And then through some mutual friends, I was rock climbing and met my co-founder Mitch, and said, Mitch, look at this cool thing I'm building. And he said, dude, that's not an algorithm. That's not an algorithm. That's just some crappy Python code.
Right.
um, so yeah, TwnSqr as it exists today was built out of Mitch and I becoming friends, rock climbing. At the time, we were watching Game of Thrones, so we bonded over that. And Mitch ended up quitting his job and building a better version of that algorithm. There's a whole story behind that we can go into, but it all started with me wanting to learn how to code so I could improve my own real estate businesses, and predict who was going to sell their house next.
Yeah. And that's a huge thing. I mean, obviously, we're always trying to figure that out, like who we're going to market to, and who is, needs to sell their house fast, so we can kind of help them with their problem. And so TwnSqr is built. You have this algorithm, but TwnSqr
Yep.
is, you kind of started off this way, but TwnSqr,
Yep.
has kind of transformed into more of a software and a website that, for us real estate
Yep.
investors or wholesalers or wholesalers, we can use it to sell our properties, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we built that prediction algorithm. It was really, really, really accurate, much to the credit of the CMU undergrads that were structuring the data for us to use. They didn't know that we were using it. Um, but we built that algorithm. It was like 95% accurate or something crazy like that a couple weeks before COVID hit.
Mm.
And then when COVID hit, we realized, oh no, the data isn't going to work for us to predict who's going to sell.
Mm.
So we had our first pivot in 2020, right as COVID was hitting and right as the business became totally remote, which is kind of where I ended up where I am today, traveling around trying to figure out where I want to live. But we decided to pivot and help retail sellers, people that wanted to sell on market with real estate agents. We decided to help them connect with top real estate agents. And we did that for about a year or so based on the core technology of a marketplace. Um, and then, much to real estate agents' credit, everybody has a good real estate agent, and the homeowners didn't want to work with a software platform to find a real estate agent because they already had a good agent in their pocket. So then we pivoted back to our real estate investing world almost a year ago, Halloween 2021. We pivoted again. Pivots are not fun. Pivots are brutally difficult. We can talk more about that if we want to, but we have been doing TwnSqr as it is today for real estate investors to support their businesses, building tools for their businesses for about the last year or so. After all those different pivots and trying to figure out how to be tech startup entrepreneurs.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the tools that you provide for investors right now?
Yeah, so you can think of TwnSqr as that marketplace. It's the core technology we built in late 2020. Yeah, that core technology is a marketplace. And then we've decided to build tools on top of that marketplace for real estate investors. So everybody in the real estate investing space, they market the properties that they have for sale, usually through email and text message and word of mouth phone calls to their buyers list. And there's no technology that has been built that is specifically for real estate investors on the email side.
Mm-hmm.
So we've decided to, on top of that marketplace, build some really high quality email text so that whenever you have a property for sale, you post it to the marketplace on TwnSqr, and then you can use our email technology to send that deal, that post as we call it, out to your buyers.
Mm.
But then the diamond in our crown, the jewel in our crown at TwnSqr is that after you send it to the marketplace, after you send your deal to your buyers, you can take that same post and you can find another investor. This is a super important thing to me, is the connection between investors, because that's how I've been able to become successful, is connecting with more professional people. On TwnSqr, you can take your post and then you can find another investor in your market and connect with them and ask them, hey, can we work together? Can we joint venture on this property? Can I leverage the buyers that you have that I don't to market this property? And that's all. It all happens in the real world. As you know, Brett, I'm sure you guys have people come to you all the time that want to joint venture with you because you're a formidable company in the Indianapolis markets.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never been done online correctly. So that's what we allow users to do: market their deals to the marketplace, send their deals to their buyers, and then connect with other investors in their market to sell their deals to those other users, buyers, or contacts. And that's called post sharing. It's really the thing that we're most excited about with TwnSqr.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I just, we have a lot of real estate investors just kind of listening to this show, and I would just really, really encourage the more tools that we can have to help out our business. And I think TwnSqr is a great tool to help, again, especially with some of the shakiness, some of the shiftness in the market, and just having that extra tool to help sell the properties. It used to be really easy to sell properties. Now, really just in the last couple of months, it's starting to become a little bit more difficult. So getting more tools on the dispositions is super important. I want to kind of shift this up a little bit and just ask, like, your experience. A lot of people, have this startup. I mean, everyone who's probably listened to this has had that experience with a startup. I mean, a tech startup. You're young, 29 years old, and you've mentioned a couple of pivots in that. And I want to talk like, what's your experience just been like with just the startup industry and just going through some of that? And yeah, I know you're raising capital and you're trying to figure out what are we, who are we, what are we doing, and talk to us about that. Like
Yeah.
just the first couple of
Yeah.
years of this.
Yeah, it has been a wild ride to say the least. When Mitch, my co-founder, and I decided that we were going to go down this path of being a true tech startup, whatever that exactly means, but we defined it as raising money, talking to venture capital firms, talking to family offices, selling equity in the business, large pieces of equity in the business to achieve hyper growth, is how I would classify a traditional tech startup. Whenever we decided to go down this path, our primary advisor on a Zoom call in the middle of COVID said, guys, and he has sold a bunch of companies. He's taken them public. He's started them from absolutely nothing to go all the way to the highest heights and ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. He said, guys, are you sure you want to do this? You don't know what you're getting yourself into.
Mm.
And Mitch and I always laugh about that conversation because we're like, ha ha ha, he told us, because it has been like 14 hours a day, no over exaggeration, 6 or 7 days a week for the last 3 years, not making any money, trying to weed through the waters of this world of startups and find what they call product market fit.
Mm.
And it's been difficult. Raising money is no small feat. What I've learned from raising money is that you're either in money raising mode or you're not in money
Mm.
raising mode. You're either balls to the walls running the business as fast and as efficiently as you possibly can, or you're trying to do that maybe 80% and the other 20% of your time is dedicated to, with the same level of focus, raising money. So we've raised a little over $500,000. We're going to go out and raise hopefully a couple $1 million here in the next couple months from the venture capital firms that we have relationships with. And yeah, it's been a lot of work. Pivots are
Yeah.
not very fun. It's starting from scratch, but with a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love what you said. Just kind of like you're either in that raising money or you're not. And it's almost like, I'm in the same boat. We raise a lot of money for our real estate, and you're
Yep.
kind of either in that mindset or you kind of let that slip. It sounds like you guys are getting ready to transition into that again. So you've obviously had a couple of pivots,
Yep.
and what are those conversations like? Because even from my own experience, you start to do something and you just kind of get in the groove with that, and a lot of people just continue doing that even though it might not be working, but you're like, oh, I put so much time and energy and into this. We need to just keep going, figure it out. But instead, you said, you know what, that's probably not going to work. Let's
Yep.
take a step back and go a different direction. Like, what is that conversation? What is that like for you to have that, with Mitch, your partner, and like,
Yep.
what did that look like?
Yeah. So Halloween, like I said, I'll never forget this conversation either. At least I hope I don't ever forget it because it was one of the most pivotal conversations of my life. Halloween 2021, we were running the retail seller business where we were helping retail sellers connect with retail agents. And we helped over a year or so, we helped about 77, I think was the number, retail sellers connect with retail agents in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania market only. And everybody has an agent in their pocket. Everybody has a good solid agent, especially in Pittsburgh where everybody knows each other. And we looked at each other, we looked at our KPIs, and we just said, man, this isn't working. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
just straight up isn't working. We're not going to be able to raise money to sustain on this. And something about Mitch and I and our relationship works out really well where we just say, okay, we're going to do this now. Like
Mm-hmm.
when COVID hit and we have that prediction algorithm, we decided, okay, we're going to do this now.
Mm.
And it was really a product of having these ideas formulating prior to the pivot, but saying like, oh, that would be cool. Mitch and I always have these long drawn out, like hour and a half, 2 hour long coffee fueled phone calls or in-person meetings where we brainstorm what we call our pie in the sky ideas. So the idea that we pivoted to was one of those pie in the sky coffee fueled ideas. But we didn't decide to pull the trigger on it until we looked at the KPIs and said, this thing isn't growing 20% month over month like it needs to for us to raise true venture capital. The customers are happy, but it's hard for us to find motivated sellers that don't already have an investor in their ear or an agent in their pocket. So we just looked at the KPIs and tried to take the most logical approach possible, the most emotionless approach possible, and decided to make the switch because it was either we give up, which neither of us were willing to do, or we make this pivot into a world that we knew really, really well, which is the real estate investing world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I know that's really hard. How's that been since then, since you've made that pivot? Was that, you're a year in now? Was that a good move for you guys? A lot of times it's really hard at the time, but then looking back, you're like, okay, that was the right move.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was. We have had over 800 people sign up for TwnSqr since we launched the new version of the platform in the middle of July this year. So in the last 3.5 months or so, 800 or so people have signed up. We're making some good revenue. Things are going really well. I am thankful to say that I know that I have a lot of venture capital interest from firms that we've already talked to that have expressed interest in the larger goal of the business. So things are definitely going well, but it's every day nose on the grindstone, trying to keep at it. But yeah, things are definitely going better than they were whenever we made the pivot. It's really interesting how a little bit of success, like, okay, somebody has signed up, somebody has paid, how different that feels than we've given things away for free for a year like we used to do. Having somebody pay for the platform, having somebody give us their money and give us that confidence that we're going to do good for them is a really interesting, terrifying, but really good feeling.
Yeah, no, definitely. It means you're bringing value, and that's
That's right.
awesome. That's awesome,
Yep.
man. Well, I am super excited to see where TwnSqr goes, and I know you're part of a couple of the masterminds some guys that I know with Collective Genius, and you're also
Yep.
Investor Fuel, and meeting some great investors there.
Oh yeah.
I want to just ask about like your personal life. So I know you met Mitch kind of rock climbing a little bit. Now you're kind of staying in Airbnbs with your wife, Shannon. Your wife sounds like she's pretty busy doing still the photography
Oh yeah.
business. And you guys are kind of a young married couple. But like,
Yep.
what's like entrepreneurship? And you talked about working 14-hour days for the last few years. What's that been like when with your wife and your relationship when you guys are both in entrepreneurship, right? So like,
Yep.
can you talk to us about that dynamic? And yeah, this is go there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that whole dynamic is fueled by a lust for freedom.
Mm,
I've always been entrepreneurial, and Shannon has always been making her own path in her life and trying to, go against the grain a little bit. So we really related in that way whenever we first met. And all of that culminates in we both really want to be free and be able to travel around the country and find out what part of the Mountain West we want to live in. So all of the hardships that we go through business wise are fueled by that lust for freedom and being able to say, no, I'm going to do this, you can't tell me what to do.
mm,
But relationship wise and family wise, man, it was a learning experience, and it still is a learning experience and a half.
mm-hmm,
Um, I have found that the things that make the biggest impact on our relationship in a positive way are being, and I'm sure everybody says this, but it's so true, being super, super intentional
mm,
with my time
mm-hmm,
between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific, because I'm in Oregon right now. Between 2 and 3 p.m. Pacific, no matter what, I drop everything and we go walk our dogs Monday through Friday. And then every single Friday or every single Saturday and Sunday, we have breakfast and we're out of the house usually by 9:30 to 10:30, somewhere in there, and we're out walking our dogs or going for a hike. And that always involves nature.
mm-hmm,
So getting to that point, getting to the point where we know this is what makes us feel good, this is what supports our relationship, being super intentional with that time, and then going back to work. Man, it was a hard path to get there, but being super super intentional with, okay, I'm done working, I can get a phone call, no problem, but I'm not at my desk hunched over looking at the computer for at least 45 minutes or so, Monday through Friday. That has been the biggest thing that has had an impact on our relationship and becoming closer. And I
Yeah.
think that one of the biggest things there is being in nature. I read this book a year or so ago called The Nature Fix that I can't recommend enough. It's like the science behind what impact nature has on your well-being. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it sounds a whole bunch of woo-woo. They tell you to look at trees and
Mm-hmm.
look at the fractal patterns and all of that stuff, but on a high level, everything that book talks about is 100% true. My wife and I have a successful relationship because we're intentional with our time, but that time that we spend is not spent looking at the TV, looking at our phones. We're out in nature, walking, getting our heart rates up, and spending time together, finding conversation, talking about anything that we can, and really getting away. That's how we have been able to be successful. It's always a work in progress, but that's how we've been able to find success in our relationship.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'll have to check out that book. There is definitely something about nature, and you. I think you said you met your partner, Mitch, rock climbing. I know the mountains
Yep.
are a part of you, and now you're kind of traveling around from Airbnb, trying to figure out, hey, where do we want to be? Where do we want to land? Right now, I said you're in Oregon, then you're going to
Yep.
Tahoe, and so what's this
Yep.
been like? Just kind of traveling around different Airbnbs and. Is that exhilarating to you guys, just exciting just to see the variety of obviously you're choosing nature
Yep.
places to immerse
Yeah.
yourself in.
It's really interesting. The most interesting thing is that every single town every single town in the Mountain West looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
Boulder, Colorado looks exactly identical, at least like the structures, the town, the people. Boulder,
Hmm.
Colorado looks identical to Durango, Colorado, to Salt Lake City, to Park City, to
Yeah.
Bend, Oregon, where I'm at now. The like homogenization of of American cities is really 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 interesting.
Mm.
And I think there's some really interesting like big business moves there that I like to study and really like to understand. But broadly, like traveling around, being out in these beautiful places, getting to stand up from my desk for an hour or so a day and just go to the grocery store and like
Mm.
walk out of the grocery store and see these like 200-foot tall pine trees in the parking lot of the grocery store. It's like, I don't know. It's beautiful. It's really 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 fortunate. We're really fortunate to have these experiences. Exhilarating is a great word
Mm.
for it. And yeah, I'm just, it's a privilege. I'm
Yeah.
super lucky. I've stumbled into something really really fortunate in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I am super thankful to have you on the show, Paul. It's been awesome. I wish you so much success with TwnSqr,
Thank you.
and I just want to encourage those that are listening. Is it sounds like you are still trying to figure out, with business wise, but also life wise, like where are you supposed to be, and you're just trying different things. You're taking some risks. You're going on a little adventure, which is really awesome. And I love that. And with Iron Deep, we're always interested in getting into these types of places. So if you ever find a place you're like, this is amazing, just trying to immerse ourselves in nature, getting undistracted, because as business owners, you're right, we're like behind screens all the time, talking on Zoom calls, always
Yep.
talking on our phones, and just needing that undistracted time, I think, is so important. But I want to give you one last opportunity. Where does someone go if they're interested in TwnSqr and as a real estate investor? Where do they go?
Yep. Yeah. So one quick comment. If you guys are looking for something for Iron Deep, by the way, Iron Deep is awesome. I'm so excited for everything that you've built there, and I think that you're the perfect person to run it, Brett. You've been such an influence on our business, and I can't thank you enough for that, making the introductions that you've made. And I think that what you have going with Iron Deep is amazing.
Thank
If
you.
you're looking for a place that is equally as cool as what you're doing in Iron Deep, you got to check out Bend, Oregon. Bend, Oregon is like adult Disneyland. There's everything from outdoors to good restaurants. It's awesome. But
Awesome.
as far as TwnSqr, you can check us out at TwnSqr.com. And you can contact me directly if you have any questions or want to get onboarded onto the platform or just connect with me in general. You can send me an email at Paul, Paul, at TwnSqr.com. I don't really use social media too much. I enjoy face-to-face interactions like this and getting on podcasts more than I enjoy Instagram or TikTok or anything like that. But if you want to connect with me somewhere online that isn't through email, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find TwnSqr on Instagram and those various places. But yeah, TwnSqr is the name of the company, and I'd welcome anybody who's in the real estate investing space to come check us out. It's $150 a month, super, super inexpensive compared to other things in the industry. So yeah, thanks,
Awesome.
Brett. Thank you for
Yeah.
everything. Thank you so, so much for all the support that you've given us.
Yeah, no, thank you. And we're going to put that in our show notes, guys, on our YouTube channel, the Iron Deep channel. So go check that out. And it's been a blast, Paul. Thank you so much for being on the show today, and wish you so much success with your life and TwnSqr, man. Thanks, buddy.
Same to you. Thank you, Brett. I wish you all the success with Iron Deep and everything that you're doing. I can't thank you enough.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me. Thank you for everything.